Gunjan, let's hear what we have coming from India.
Yep. Greetings for the day, everybody, because it's different times around, and hope that all are doing well in the COVID times. It's a fact now that this is the new normal. Post-COVID world is the new normal, and we have to work with thinking that this is how work will be done for at least some time now. As far as India is concerned, demand, as you can see, you saw from the slides, you can see that demand has been through the roof, and it's not just for walnuts, it's been for almonds, all tree nuts, all nuts and dried fruits have seen such kind of increase in the demand. Uh, However, I think it's a misnomer if I say that this. A lot of people think that this increase in demand is because of COVID. That there's a lot of awareness on the health benefits of nuts and dried fruits. I would say yes, that is a very big factor because even our government is now promoting eating nuts and dried fruit, and that will help long term a lot. But I think Indian market would have grown even more if it was not for COVID, because of the fact that I feel that there was a lot of demand destruction in India, not because that the demand didn't exist. The people wanted the fruit, but the supply chain just wasn't there. I mean, you could not have everybody in every city could not get the product when they needed it. Online has increased a lot, but online still remains to be online, or modern trade remains to be still a smaller part of our total how the sales happen in India. What has happened, what is very different in the Indian market compared to others is that in every other part of the world, even when there were lockdowns, all the supermarkets were open. So in India, unfortunately, the how the lockdowns took place last year, and when this year they've hit us totally unprepared. What happened is that most of the Indian supermarkets are present in big malls. So the first thing that any government does is shuts down the whole mall. So automatically, most of the supermarkets, even though they fall in the essential category, were shut down. So this, I mean, just to tell you, some of the leading retail chains in India, like Walmart or DMart, they've had from 700 stores only, I mean, 100 stores working, and very limited time of working of stores. So although there is a lot of demand, the potential for demand was much, much more than what we could fulfill because of the gaps in the supply chain. So what I think how India grew as a market was its natural progression that you will see in the years to come also, that how the Indian market and Indian consumption trends increase and our per capita consumption goes up, because still our per capita consumption of nuts in India is still very, very minuscule. So over a period of time, you would see that. Uh, as the figure said, total consumption of walnuts in India last year has been about between 55,000 to 58,000 tons, out of which about 31,000 tons is the imports, and the rest is, of course, a part of the Indian crop. You have to bear in mind that India still exports about 10 to 15,000 tons of its crop in form of kernels to mainly the European destinations, but the rest of it now gets consumed in India, and every year this trend is increasing. However, India will still end up exporting about 10,000 tons for many years to come, because India does not consume ambers. So India will always be an exporter of ambers as far as walnut kernels are concerned. Uh, Talking about the way the demand has gone, I think it's the tip of the iceberg. Prices have been low, and everybody's seen what low prices have done for the Indian market. So we'll talk about tariffs a little later on, and I mean, what tariffs can do if tariffs go out of India. I mean, I've said it before, and I'll repeat it that 100,000 tons is, I mean, just a year away when India would consume that much. So yeah, that's on India.
Great. Thank you, Gunjan. It's too bad you don't consume the amber because that's the only thing left. Valerie, maybe we'll address the biggest concern I think that we've seen here from California, and that's the tariffs in India. I know you mentioned it Gunjan earlier, what do you think the prospects are for reducing the tariffs, and what could we do as an industry to help you convince the government to be nicer to walnut importers, exporters?
I actually knew that this question would come either from you or from somebody in the audience. But this is the first question, any panel discussion we have on walnuts, this is the first question it comes because, yes, sadly and unfortunately, the tariff structure in India right now is not the right tariff structure. It's a penal 100% on Chilean product and 120% on Californian product. And what can be done on that? There has been a lot of work that has been happening from our side as an industry. I have personally met quite a few senior people in the government. We've tried to, the only thing that can work is a lot of lobbying on the health benefits. We've even had so what we've done is we've had a representation go to the health ministry. The biggest challenge that India is facing right now is that very unfortunately, the government figure of the total Indian production and the actual Indian production is very different. Because of which, when it comes to the policy level, when it comes to the government level, they want to protect the Indian industry, and this protectionism has come. So I think it will need an effort from both sides. The Walnut Board, California Walnut Board, the USDA, Chilenat, the importers in India all have to lobby. All together, a concerted effort has to be made for the government to realize that there is not enough product in India. There is not enough of this healthy product available. And basically what we have to understand is that in India, still the demand, we are talking a market which is doubled, but most of it is still not touching the actual Indian population. It's still only the upper echelon of the Indian consumption pyramid, which are right now consuming these nuts. We have seen, in spite of COVID, in spite of all the problems, in spite of the shipping problem, in spite of the local logistical problem, we saw the market rise. Why? Because, not a good thing as far as the farmer is concerned, but because the prices were at an all-time low, so the demand in India percolated one notch down. I talk about the Indian consumption pyramid. So the demand has, in fact, percolated one notch down, where now probably every average middle-class household has started thinking of consuming walnuts. So because of that, we saw an increase even when everything else was not in shape. So that tells us of the potential. If the tariffs go, I've said this before, it will be 100,000 ton market in you could see it next year. If tariffs go, I will not be surprised that you would be inundated with demands from India. In spite of all the troubles we have had, India is still buying all the walnuts they can get. And that has been typical, because if you'll see last year, when the main COVID thing comes, the demand just stops. Then as the COVID thing deaccelerates a little, the growth numbers and the number of cases go down, then people start again consuming. So we've lost two crucial consumption months, but I do feel that still the potential is so large that such things are minor roadblocks. So if we can work together as an industry to convince on our part, on the Indian government part, I can touch the highest level in the Commerce Ministry. We've done that in the past. So we just need that. If a joint representation can go, a lot of talk on the health, and the Ministry of Health is involved. That I think in itself can lead to tariff reduction, because just plain by government numbers, they do not want to disturb anything in Kashmir right now, because Kashmir is a very sensitive spot, and all the walnuts in India are produced out of Kashmir region. So right now, the Indian government would not want to do anything where they feel that they're harming a Kashmir origin person. So it's very important that somehow this message is relayed, that it will increase the consumption level so much that it is already much higher than what Kashmir is producing actually. So, basically we need to do that to be able to, it's a tough nut to crack. It's the hard shell of a walnut to crack, but we have to work together as an industry, and I mean, we have to try and do it. And I feel that if we can come together, it's very much possible.
News. That's good news. Gunjan, what about, you mentioned, I watched the last year's presentation on the INC, and you mentioned that the biggest challenge that remains for the growth of the market in India and consumption in India is the awareness of walnuts and maybe new products. I see in your background, maybe there's lots of new products. Are there new products coming to the market with walnuts in India, and will that raise awareness for consumption in India with maybe the younger crowd? You mentioned only the elite top percent of the population is consuming. What efforts are being done to get the rest of the country to enjoy walnuts?
So, I mean, that's thanks a lot to the California Walnut Commission and now Chile Nut. With them, they're also starting a program in India. So I've been saying this a long time. In India, it's still about making everybody aware more and more on the health benefits of walnuts, making as we percolate, do lower. I talked about the consumption pyramid. So it's the same thing. The more the awareness is there, the more it will flow down to every consumer that they start consuming walnuts. Although, I mean, it has happened. It's great work that has happened in the last 3 years, and we are seeing the result of that in terms of the percentage in growth. But that is the potential. As more and more people get aware on the health benefits, as more and more, as you rightly mentioned, new products are made, we are able to create more snacking items out of walnuts. We've tried that with some of the products. It's a slow mover. It will take time, but I do feel that the more and more it becomes a snacking nut, there's more awareness on part of how it can be consumed, not just in winters, but also in summers. India usually sees a big dip in summers when it comes to nut consumption. It's very skewed because in India, there's still, I mean, everybody still has a myth that they're not good in summers. So if more work can be done in creating a kind of awareness on that and just letting more and more people know, I think, I mean, sky's the limit. So that's still, if today anybody says tariff, anything else, my answer would remain the same. What I said 2 years ago, I would say the same, that the biggest area for improvement and growth for the Indian market is still creating more awareness in the Indian population. So I would highly recommend that both California and Chile work together, increase their budgets on a newer market like India compared to other mature markets. The more you can help promote the health benefits of nuts, the more you can promote awareness on walnuts. Because one good thing we've seen, I mean, people in India now refer to walnuts more as, I mean, it's been in India for the last 200 years. But if I talk to an average consumer in India, they are today referring to a walnut as a California walnut or a California almond. We've seen what has happened with almonds, and that's the result of, I mean, relentless work in terms of promotion that the US boards have done. So, I mean, similar thing. I mean, we've started seeing people calling it California walnuts. So I think over a period of time, if more can be done, and I've been telling the guys in Chile that if you don't catch up, you're gonna, I mean, it'll all be referred to as California walnuts. So you have to do something in India too as a mark, as a origin to start promoting on walnuts. So,
we've talked about duties. There's questions on the duties. And just to be clear, the duties into India are 100% for all origins and 20% extra for the US. Due to, I guess, the trade war. Question from Kaz Takus. I can't pronounce your last name, I apologize. But anyway, will the walnut industry in California increase organic walnut farming in the future? What's the trend in California? And what's the percentage of organic supply out of the total crop? I don't have figures in front of me, but I would say it's less than 10%. Is organic, and the trend is growing, but relatively slowly. And with prices as low as they are, it's difficult in California if you already have a low price and then you grow an organic crop and it has extremely low yield. as far as pounds per acre, then it's even worse on the economic side. And at the moment, there's actually an excess supply of organic in the market. So it's been difficult. I know some of my colleagues have mentioned that they had extra organic sitting around trying to get the higher prices of the premium for organic, and were unable to sell it a few months ago. Maybe now with the shortage of the crop, that will change and they're able to move it. But a few months ago, it was oversupply. This year, the USA walnut had a lot of quality problems, yield, color of kernels. What's the industry doing to improve the quality and controlling the same? I guess I'll answer that as well. So the Walnut Board has a large budget for production research, new varieties. There's a new variety that was just released with higher yield, better color, earlier harvest. There's a large push to do all the things that Mr. Zhao was mentioning about improving quality in the current varieties. And then, of course, all of the older varieties, which tend to be darker and have more problems, they're being removed. So the main varieties now being Chandler, Tulare, Howard, their quality is much better. Gunjan, do you have a comment on this?
Yeah, so I'd like to add just the perspective of the Indian market, which is very different from any other market in the world. That in India, there is an obnoxious premium that you can get for the extra light product. So Indians like their product to be as white as possible. So because of that, I mean, India is the only country, one of the few countries in the world where you have a face whitening cream. So that tells you all. But that is the thing, that from why people in India, I would not agree to this question fully. And I know it has come from India, that there's a big perception in India that this year the California crop was very bad and totally damaged. It's been very tough for me explaining to every buyer in India that it's not like that. It cannot be that every walnut you crack will come out as an extra light half. People in India tend to expect that if 1 year they've seen all walnuts coming out as extra light, in India, if the walnut is not coming out extra light, it's still considered that this year it's not good quality. So I think, again, a lot of trade awareness needs to be created. This is more awareness for the trade, not just the consumer. Even trade, I'm talking about importers who have done maybe 20, 30 odd loads of walnut from the origin. I mean, I've been talking to them and they keep telling me this year California was very bad, very bad. The trade also in India, so the California Walnut Commission has to work a lot in the Indian market, even with the trade, to make them understand that not every Chandler walnut, India is primarily a market and for this reason, India is a market just for Chandler and no other. I mean, we've tried Hartley, Veena, Tulare. I've personally imported all, and I mean, all of them have failed for us. Sirs, we've done. Nothing works in India like the Chandler does. But there has to be more awareness created in the Indian industry, the Indian trader mindset. We have to go down to the shopkeeper level, the trader that is buying, to let them know that this is the average look that you will get out of a California Chandler walnut kernel. As soon as that happens, I mean, we'll have less of such things coming in that this year the California crop was totally damaged or totally spoiled, because I do not think that that was the case.
The walnut is a very sensitive nut. We should have some guiding seminars also about how to handle the walnut and how to store them. Gunjan, how are you getting the word out as a processor on how to store walnuts to keep, in India's case, to keep the color light and the freshness available?
So most of the walnut kernels in India are sold vacuum packed. So that's one thing which is good for the Indian market, that there's awareness there. But it goes back to the same point that I mentioned, that, I mean, as an industry, India, we have been much smaller players. So if we have the support of somebody like the California Walnut Commission, and we are able to do more such awareness seminars where we talk about what the actual product is and how it should be stored. And it percolates down to the tier 2, tier 3 cities, which can be used in that program. I do feel that that would help make people understand. We've been doing it over the years in a small way, and that's the reason why, I mean, there's very less, 85% of the walnut kernels sold in India are sold as a 100, 200 gram or a 500 gram vacuum brick pack. They're never sold loose as such. So that has taken place, and that's what we are trying to tell everybody, how to use them, how to handle them. One of the things we really feel we need to create awareness with the Indian consumer is how the taste profile of any walnut, being a high oil nut, changes over a period of time. What they will experience in a new crop when the new Californian crop hits in December, and what they will have the same taste profile if it is May or June, it will be slightly different. In fact, we've gone ahead and we've started putting on our consumer packs a chart or a table which is showing that over the period of time, if in this month you're consuming, it will be slightly stronger in taste. So that's something that the more awareness that can be created at both the trade and the consumer level, it will again help the Indian market grow faster.
I think we're at the end of our time. I want to thank everyone for their comments and everyone for their questions online.